Joining me in studio now, a good friend of the show. You hear him all the time on our radio show. He talks about moving up as well as moving down in real estate. He's got an excellent team that helps him cover pretty much all of San Diego. And he's coming here specifically to talk about those categories as well as what to do in a high-end divorce when real estate involves. So we got Bobby Martins joining us.
Good to see you, buddy.
And financial advisor, first time to the show, Justin Reckers. Thanks for coming in here as well. So you guys want to get into that stuff? You want to talk golf?
Well, I always love to talk about golf.
Talk golf?
Yeah, absolutely.
Last time Bobby was on the show, we talked about his top 3 favorite golf courses. Was that?
Yep, that was the show, and we went to.
Mine was Steel Canyon.
Yep, mine was the Bridges, and Simple Man was what?
Steve Kane.
Yeah, he was Torrey Pines.
Was he? Well, yeah. That's such an easy one.
That's an easy one.
I played Medeiros.
Do you have a favorite?
San Diego, my favorite's got to be Encinitas Ranch because I go right off the tee on every hole, so it helps me out.
Well, that makes it your favorite course.
Yeah.
Then all mine are tied for my favorite.
And you can walk there because he lives right down the street.
That's
so.
right.
Fair enough. You guys are actually doing a charity coming up here soon. Tell us real quickly about that.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm a trustee for the National MS Society, Multiple Sclerosis Society, that covers San Diego, Orange, and Imperial counties and state of Hawaii. And we have an annual golf tournament coming up May 5th, Cinco de Mayo here this year at La Jolla Country Club. Website's up on the screen there. If anybody's interested in joining, it's a great event. Norv Cherner has chaired it in the past. Jerry Sanders chairing this year. Great event, great people. Dinner afterwards, awesome, good time.
Cool, man. No, that's awesome to put it in. I know you're a busy guy, so the idea that you're actually putting time and energy into a charity as well, it speaks volumes about you.
Thanks.
But I know you guys didn't come here to talk about golf. We're going to get into some of the high-end divorce cases, some of the things that you're doing and the advice that you're providing. But move up. You talked about this on the radio show on Tuesday. To me, this is one of the more interesting topics of real estate right now because, look, for the last, not the last, but 2007 to 2010, we'll say the market was just crushed. It's been recovery since then. But now people who've held out have seen equity growth in their property that's just been explosive. I mean, depending on the market, somewhere up around 20% in some markets. That gives a great opportunity to reposition that equity as a down payment on a bigger and better house. On the radio show this week, you also talked about where interest rates were. Coincidentally, we just had Janet Yellen talking about bond buying. Mortgage rates benefit from bond buying. So talk to moving up and the opportunity and how you facilitate that if anyone's trying to explore that now.
Well, I think that 2014 is the year of the move up. I mean, and the move down for that matter. I mean, basically we're asking our clients, is your home meeting your current needs for the next 5 years? And if it isn't, then you really need to look at doing a move up or move down right now because we know rates are really low right now. They're 4.25 right around there. That's really competitive. But when rates go up to say 6.5 or 6, I mean that's a 50% jump in your payment. So it's going to make it very difficult to do that. So if it's not meeting your current needs, you have to look at it and say, okay, maybe this is the time to make a move. And so we're seeing a lot of people doing that right now.
So think about it this way: you have equity that's grown in your real estate. Now it's kind of trapped in the real estate until you realize it. You sell the house, or in this case, maybe you sell the house and you transition it to a bigger and better home as a down payment. But you might be able to lock into an interest rate that's lower than the mortgage you're burning right now anyway. Mm-hmm. So that lower rate, more money down, all of a sudden you might be able to afford a much bigger home without that massive increase to the payment. Now, fast forward, let's say, well, honey, we're looking at doing this, just not yet. Let's do it in a few years when we have our second child. Bobby's making a great point. Well, if interest rates were to rise, equity might go up with it because I think we're going to be in an appreciating market. But if interest rates rise, it might lessen the opportunity to do that. Mm-hmm. So love the strategy. Also moving down, smaller house if you need to do that. But we brought you in here, Justin, Bobby, on the radio show this week. We were talking about high-end divorces, so real estate that involves equity. We just talked about maybe a strategic move versus, in this case, maybe a forced move. Mm-hmm. So when that happens, real estate being your biggest investment, you've had a lot of memories there. That's got to be a pretty stressful situation. You facilitate it. You're the known real estate expert for helping in situations like this. So you tell me, how does this stuff work? I've never been through divorce.
It's always a challenge, and I have been through divorce many years ago, happily married now for almost 12 years, but it is a challenging thing because you have two people who both want the house, and are trying to figure out a way to keep the house, but maybe can't afford it and to have two separate households. And many times a lot of equity is trapped in that house. And so you have to figure out, okay, what is the best way to get that equity out? Sometimes it's one person buying out the other side. Sometimes it's an absolute necessity to sell the house. So then where I come in is I really try and focus on making sure we sell it for top dollar so that we can basically get out all that equity and then they can split it fairly. And what a lot of times people do is they kind of screw that up. They fight, and they make things difficult, and they don't maybe prepare the house for the market like they should, and so then they end up selling it for less. And so we really try and focus in on selling it for top dollar.
And what you do is on the real estate side, people count on you for that. Advisors like Justin. Justin, what do you do in that situation? CEO of Pacific Divorce Management.
So I'm the guy who's sitting down with the husband and wife, or together, or one or the other, and helping them make that decision. Should we keep the house? Can we afford the house? Individually or on a together basis. Sometimes people decide to co-own their house after a divorce for the sake of keeping their kids in a high school or something like that.
Or maybe refinancing it. Do you see that happen?
That's an option.
Pull equity out,
Absolutely.
cash out, pay the other person off?
Cash out, pay the other person off so they can make a down payment on buying something new.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely a possibility. My job really is to help people understand the financial ramifications of any of those different options, and to help them really brainstorm and understand what those options are that exist. And then if we get to a point where we can decide together outside of a court system what they want to do, what's best for the family, bring Bobby in, and he can help us decide, what are we going to list the place at if it's got to be sold? What's a good value if somebody's going to have to buy the other person's interest out? If one person's going to keep it, we got to have some way to figure out what it's worth so that they can pay the other person for their half of the equity.
I'm just thinking how complicated that could be. Not only do you have the emotions in the situation, and as you just mentioned, kids, that complicates things even more. But I'm a numbers guy. I'm sitting here thinking, all right, well, if you had a $700,000 house that you owed $400 on, so you're going to take out $150,000 in equity to pay off the ex-spouse. Mm-hmm. Well, that extra $150,000 is now also going to increase the payment.
Yeah.
So how do you justify the higher payment for the next 20, 30 years on the mortgage?
Right.
You get the cash, but you're leaving that person with a higher payment for that cash. So, that'd be really complicated. Sometimes it probably just makes sense.
Yeah, well, imagine if you're thinking about a $4 or $5 million house instead of a $600,000 or $700,000 house.
Yeah.
Same idea. More people with those higher end houses tend to own them for cash and have small or no mortgage at all. So it's a little bit easier to take some cash out of it. But when you're looking at trying to help people really pardon the pun, but divorce themselves from the ownership of their house, you also got to help them understand where the money's going to go, what it can help them buy. Bobby can be helpful in that, helping that person who is going to be leaving the residence go out and look at what their other opportunities are out there in the market, so that they know they can part ways with the place that already exists, whether they can replace it. The reality is everybody, when they get divorced, is now splitting one income across two households, and lifestyles have to change most of the time.
Yeah.
So,
Bobby, you had some key elements. If real estate does get involved, refinancing doesn't make sense, you are going to sell the house. So there's a few key things that you need to do in every situation that people call on you for. So what are these things?
Well, basically you got to determine what the actual value of the property is. And then secondly, you got to make sure from a timing aspect, and this becomes the biggest challenge, is one person usually wants to stay in the house and one person wants to get out of the house, or one person wants to sell the house really quick. Yeah. And so that person who wants to sell it quick is typically the guy who's saying, okay, let's underprice it and just sell it. Whereas, that's not what I want to do. I want to focus on getting top dollar for my clients. So, and then preparing it for the market, making sure that, any repairs need to be done before it goes on the market, and, and just making sure that it's showing in its best light, and that's the biggest keys. Yeah,
tough situation. That's why I think you need professionals to help you along the way and try and neutralize some of the emotions with it. But no, good luck with your guys' charity. Of course, if anyone's looking to move up, move down, we've always recommended you. But also these tough situations, divorce, you guys clearly, this is what you do. Your website, moveupsandiego.com. I know you got a guide there that can help people with information like this.
Yeah, best thing to do is to maybe email me, Bobby@moveupsandiego.com. Again, Bobby@moveupsandiego.com. And this is the top 35 divorce financial planning mistakes to avoid. So if you would like to get a copy of that, feel free to email that, and that's 100% confidential, and definitely gives you a lot of good information.
Glad you brought up emails.
Yes.
I need you to help me with one. All All right, so we always try and get to these every segment that we can. Here's one on divorce. Craig, I'm going through divorce. Does it make sense to refinance, cash out, or just sell the home? We really just kind of touched on that. I think it really depends. But you're the financial advisor here, Justin. So do you get into these numbers? Do you look at the new mortgage payment? They might be at a lower interest rate, so to refinance that cash out now is going to take a higher rate, higher payment.
Yeah, my job really is to be the kind of architect of the decision-making process for my clients. So yeah, I'm going to look at what is it going to cost you to stay in this house? What would it cost you to rent? What would it cost you to go out and buy something else? What other assets do you have to trade off for the equity that you're keeping? That is absolutely my job and what I do with my clients on a day-to-day basis. My opinion of the question there is, you got to look at whether it's affordable on a long-term basis. And when you're going through a divorce, it's all about budget. You spend too much money, you're going to run out, and then you're going to get stuck in a fire sale situation 2 years from now, ripping up hardwood floors in your house in Carmel Valley to throw them in the fireplace to heat it. And that's not a good situation for mom, dad, kids, anybody. So you got to know you can afford it. Well,
good advice. Thank you for helping us there. If you have questions, you can go to craigsewing.com, our contact form. Happy to connect with you guys. Hopefully I can get in on that golf tournament. We'll compare slices.
Happy to have you.
Yeah.